Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Book with Smitty. Get into it. Yes, I love that song. So yes, welcome back to my channel. I am Michelle, otherwise known as Book with Smitty, and today I am here to talk about how I rate my books. Last year, someone in my Facebook group posted an interesting way in how they rated their book. So I began to search for another way to rate books. You know, sometimes you're not quite sure if your book is a 2 or a 3 or a 3 or a 4, sort of an in between. Then I saw a YouTube video with someone who posted an interesting way of how to rate books. So since then, I started rating my books using this CAWPILE system, just so that I can have an accurate measure of what rating my book is. Now, this is not something that you have to do at all. If you are sure that your book is a 2 or you're absolutely sure your book is a 5, then you don't need to use the system. But for those of us who are sometimes like not sure of the in-between phase of the book, this system helps figure it out. All right, so let's take a look at this. So the way this CAWPILE system works is that, well, here's the word CAWPILE that you can then put it going down and use as an acronym, right? So you take the C for characters, the A for atmosphere, W for the writing style, P for the plot, I for intrigue, L for logic, and E for enjoyment. And you give each one of those letters a rating. So here's your rating scale right here. 0 to 3 is very poor. 4 to 6 is mediocre. 7 to 9 is really good. And 10 is outstanding. Once you find whatever number for every single one of these letters, you're then going to get an average and divide it by 7. And then you're going to find that number within the scale of 1 star to 5 star. So if you need a little bit more of an understanding of what the CAWPILE letters stand for, characters are when the author develops a character very well and if you like the character. And that also means that if the character is a villain, did that character really play that part as a villain very well. Think of like when movies, when you have a villain in a movie and that villain plays the part really well. So the same thing happens in a book. When the author portrays any character in a book to the point where you really like the characters and they have developed them very well, you give them a rating, or etc. You can add whatever you want to it. The atmosphere has to do with the mood, the tone, the world building, etc. The writing has to do with the skill level and enjoyability of the book. How well you like the style in which the author has written the book. The plot, does the story flow? We all know that we read books and stories just do not flow sometimes. So the more it flows, the better rating you give it. Intrigue, does it hold your interest? Logic, does it make sense? Are there any plot holes missing? And the last one is enjoyment. So did you enjoy the book? So that's how you can use the CAWPILE system. I mean, it may seem like a lot in the beginning, but I promise you the more you do it, like I do it in 2 seconds. I'm like bam, 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 I'm done. Because I use it all the time. So I'm going to show you how I actually use 2 books to do this rating. And they're going to be 2 books that I've rated 5 stars. Okay, so I'm apologizing in advance for my wonky little system here. So I don't have any fancy equipment or anything like that. I'm just trying to figure it out. So I had to figure out a unique way to get everything on one screen because I don't have a whole bunch of cameras or anything like that. Thankfully, I'm a teacher and I can figure out, you know, this is what I do in the classroom. I have to figure out how to get everything on one screen so that the kids can see it. So I'm doing the same thing, but hopefully my message gets across. So I am going to rate these 2 books, Slay and Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Now, both of these books I rated a 5 star. Like, I didn't even need this system to know that they were a 5 star, but I'm also doing a little side project where at the end of the year, I'm going to see which book is the best book. And in order to do that, I needed to really be specific in the rating of the 5-star book. So if I have like 20 books that are 5-star, in which I actually probably do because I've read 90 books so far, and like maybe 15 of them have been 5-star, which one gets to be the number one top billing? So this system works for me to help me figure out which one is the better 5-star book based on this rating. So just to refresh your memory, if you have not read these 2 books, which are fabulous, and I actually absolutely recommend that you read both of them. So Slay, which I just finished reading and it's fresh in my head, and I love this book, is about a girl named Kiara Johnson who's an honor student. She's a math tutor and one of the only kids at one of the only black kids at Jefferson Academy. But at home, she joins hundreds of thousands of black gamers who duel worldwide as Nubian personas in a secret multiplayer online role-playing card game called Slay. Now, no one knows that Kiara is the game developer, not her friends, her family, not even her boyfriend Malcolm, who believes video games are partially responsible for the downfall of the black man. But when a teen in Kansas City is murdered over a dispute in the Slay world, news of the game reaches mainstream media, and Slay, the game, is labeled a racist, exclusionist, violent hub for thugs and criminals. Even worse, an anonymous troll infiltrates the game, threatening to sue Kiara for anti-white discrimination. So the way the game works is that you need a code in order to get to the game. So you can't go to Target or Walmart to get the game. You can't even download it online. You need a code. So there's a whole bunch of questions that you have to answer, and that person will give you a code. And so, yeah, it looks like the game has excluded white people, but the reason why she created the game was because when she used to play games back in the day, they were racist towards her. So she sort of just wanted to create an environment where she felt like she could be herself, and that's what the game ended up being. So now, let me tell you about Good Girl, Bad Blood. So now, Good Girl, Bad Blood is the sequel to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, where a girl named Pip, in the first book, she was doing a high school project, and her high school project was, well, she had to come up with her own project. She decided to investigate a murder that had took place in her small town the year before, and that was what that book was about. In this book, Good Girl, Bad Blood, Pip is not a detective anymore, or not a detective anymore, I should say. With the help of Ravi Singh, she releases a true crime podcast about the murder case they solved together last year. And the podcast has gone viral, yet Pip insists her investigating days are behind her, but she will have to break that promise when someone she knows goes missing. One of her friends has a sibling who has disappeared in the middle of the night, and her friend asks her to help her find her sibling. And so she sort of gets caught up in investigating another mystery yet again. And this book is about, when you're in a small town, the secrets that come out that were hidden based on the thing that happened. So, with that said, let's get into the rating system of this book. So I'm going to do it side by side just to make it easier. Let me just do a little T chart right here. We call this T chart in school because it looks like the letter T. So S is for Slay and G is for Good Girl. And let's talk about the characters. So in Slay, I'm giving it a 10 because I loved every single character in the book, like hands down. I loved every single character in the book. I felt like every character was developed in the book. But in Good Girl Guide to Murder, I felt like I should say. But in Good Girls Guide to Murder, I felt that not every character was developed enough. So it usually happens in murders or in mysteries where there's so many characters because it makes sense. You're investigating a crime or a mystery. And so what happens is um, because you're investigating so many different characters, those characters are not really well developed. But then you get down to the two or three that you think has played a part into the mystery, and I feel like those characters should be fleshed out more. But that really wasn't the case. So, and that's why I gave it a 9. But it didn't take away from the book. I still really love the book. I still feel like I got enough from the book. I just felt like it should have been developed a little bit more. So let's talk about the atmosphere in these two books. So in Slay, I feel like Brittany Morris uh, really developed the mood, the tone, and the world building of this book. I felt that every single page was so fleshed out, so much so that as I was reading the book, I was off on the side Googling and looking up massively multiplayer online role playing games. It was that serious. One of the reasons why I love this book is because I am a gamer. I love playing games. I actually looked into playing massively multiplayer online role game years ago, like when I first started playing games. But for me, the danger of not knowing who's behind that screen and who you're talking to made me stop. So I decided to play games that you can play by yourself, like like The Sims, which you actually can still play The Sims with somebody else, but I just choose not to. And like Roller Coaster Tycoon or Nancy Drew Murder Mysteries. You don't have to play with anybody. I decided to play those kind of video games for me because it just felt safe for me. But I'm telling you, I was so invested because of how Brittany Morris wrote the book. I mean, I was also looking up the equipment that she was talking about because she just painted everything so well. She just did it flawless. So I gave that book a 10. I gave Slay. I shouldn't say that book. Slay a 10. Also, I gave Good Girl, Bad Blood a 10 also because the town was written really well. I don't know what it is, but I love small towns. So anytime a book is set in a small town, I'm so invested because I've always wanted to live in a small town. Right? I mean, I live in a big place. I live in New York City. And I love that you can go anywhere and somebody knows you in a small town. And I felt like the author did a really good job in the school system, in the families, with their friends, everything. So the writing style in both of these books were also a 10. I enjoyed every single page that I read, and the plot flowed for me in Slay. But I gave Good Girl, Bad Blood a 9 for the plot because I feel like, again, when you're solving a crime, there's so many pieces to the puzzle that you kind of have to. It's like you can't just, in my head, you can't just drop these characters without a little bit of explanation. And I just feel like there wasn't enough. There was so much going on in the story. It wasn't in such a negative way. I was able to pick up, but I had to really stay focused and keep track of it. It was the same thing when I read the first book, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. In order for me to stay focused, I sort of had to take notes and annotate as I was reading because it was just all over the place in a good way. I mean, when you're solving a crime, you're going to be in different houses and different environments, but that's the reason why I gave it a 9 out of 10. Just a little bit of a distraction for me. But at the end of the day, both books held my interest, so I gave it a 10 for both. And now we're up to Logic, and for Slay, I gave it a 9. I mean, it broke my heart because I was really, really hoping that I could give this book perfect 10s across the board in every single category, but I had to be honest, there was a little small plot hole, and I remember when I was up to that part and I was like, well, wait, this is it? Because Brittany Morris actually fleshed out every single character, so much so that there was a backstory for every single one of the characters, or at least I should say the very, very, very important ones. And the person who got killed was an important character because that's what the whole book was based on. The whole book was based on that in a certain way. And I just feel that that character just needed a little bit more fleshing out. Not that it took away from me loving this book. I understood, and I actually just used my inference skills to figure out the backstory myself. But I kind of wish it was in the book. So that's the only reason why I gave it a 9. I mean, it really broke my heart. Good Girl Guide to Murder, I gave it a 10. I know I mentioned about the characters and the plot flow, but even though I had a problem with the plot flowing, there really was no holes left in the story. The plot flow and the characters for me was a 9 because of the fact that I had to do a whole lot of like note taking to keep track of every single character. Also, you have to keep in mind that this book has a sequel. There's another book after that, so this story is not over. But still in all, I feel that Holly Jackson did a great job of clearing up everything. So by the end of the book, everything that happened in the story made sense for me. And at the end, did I enjoy both of these books? Like, hell yeah. Slay is like my #1 book now. I mean, I was just like all the feels in this book. That's why I was mad that I had to give this a 9 right here. But it is what it is. What happens when you use the CAWPILE system? You get like I said, you get a very specific rating. Do I need this if I know they're both 5? No, you don't really need them. But like I said, I'm doing something later on where I'm ranking each one. And this sort of helps me with the ranking of how great of a 5-star the book is. So with that being said, what you do then is you add up all these numbers, you divide it by 7, and then you see how much of a 5-star book it is. Alright, so let's figure this out. So we have, for Slay, we have 69 divided by 7. That gives us 9.85. So we can round it up to 9.9. Let's put 9.9 right here. Now we have Good Girls Guide to Murder with 50 plus 18 or 68. I mean, did I really need a calculator for that? Alright, so we have 68 divided by 7. And we got 9.7. Okay, so we see that Good Girl, Bad Blood has rated a 9.7 and Slay has rated a 9.9, and they're both 5-star books. I already knew that, but just so you can see how the system works, Slay has slayed Good Girl, Bad Blood. Now, if, like I said, I had a book that I was thinking was a 4-star, wasn't quite sure, if I do this rating, I can figure out maybe it ended up being a 3-star book and not necessarily a 4-star book. So it really just helps you get really specific about the rating. I love this rating. Like I said, I use it all the time. I'm very quick with the rating. So once you understand how it goes, it takes but 2 seconds to just rate, divide by 7, and then you plug it into which star rating it is. So with that being said, that is the end. I hope I've explained the CAWPILE system rating system to you and that you're able to use it if you choose to. If you like what you've seen in this video and you want more information from me, please hit the like button and the subscribe button and come on back. Have a blessed day.